Hello and welcome to PediFlite Helicopter Orientation and Safety, working in and around rotor wing aircraft. In this session, we will be covering a lot. We'll be covering how to approach the aircraft, how to open and close the doors, points about outside storage, points about safety belts and shoulder straps, crew cabin controls, the sled turret system for loading and unloading the stretcher and isolette, emergency exits, general aircraft knowledge, oxygen, fuel, and power shutoffs, the rotor wing brake and fire extinguisher, and how to get out of the aircraft in an emergency, known as egress. When approaching any rotor wing aircraft, you should always approach from the front or side. The pilot should always be aware of your presence, and landing on a helipad means a level surface, so winds can cause rotor blades to dip, which can create a hazard. When approaching the aircraft, be sure the pilot is aware of your presence. Making eye contact is best. Helipads are on level ground. However, rotor blades can dip due to wind and pitch. You should never approach a helicopter uphill, and you should always leave going downhill. During landing and departure, helicopters produce very strong winds. This is called rotor wash, and it blows everything in the area around. Do not bring loose objects within the vicinity of an operating aircraft. Do not approach an aircraft with objects higher than your head. Hats should be turned around if worn at all. The video in this slide covers the opening and closing of the side doors. The doors on the side of the aircraft must be handled with care and opened and closed in sequence. The front door should be closed first, the rear door last. The handles are delicate, so do not force them. The rear doors have a catch that locks and engages when the doors are pushed back, and must be released with your thumb. The video in this slide illustrates the outside storage. There are two outside storage compartments on the aircraft to carry items when not in use. The square door in the rear is used for smaller items such as bags and supplies. It is as far back as you should go on the aircraft. The other door opens for long boards and other less used items. These doors have their own closure locking mechanisms. Familiarize yourself with how they work. The aircraft seats have seat belts and shoulder straps. These should be used anytime you are in the aircraft prior to takeoff and landing. You'll also be wearing a helmet, which should be secured and communications plugged in. The seat belt should be buckled when not in use so that the belts do not slide outside the door between the aircraft frame. The buckle can cause significant damage if it bangs against the outside frame of the aircraft. The crew cabin has lots of controls for lights, vents, electrical, O2, suction, and the radio. Familiarize yourself with how these work and turn the O2 off, as well as the suction when not in use. It is important to remember that increased lighting decreases visibility in flight at night. The aircraft has a stretcher sled system that secures the stretcher to the aircraft. It operates on a turret, and there are 3 types. Be sure to familiarize yourself with each. This video illustrates the most commonly used stretcher sled turret system. Loading and unloading an isolette from the aircraft requires a more coordinated transfer, and there is a special box used to coordinate this move. The helicopter should be shut down for loading and offloading an isolette. This is known as a cold or hot load or offload. When loading or unloading an isolette or air sled, someone should always be in charge. Maintaining control of the stretcher is essential. The wheel should be someone locked. Should always be in charge of this role. Lock the wheels. This section covers general aircraft knowledge. We will talk about the tail rotor system, aircraft exhaust, fire concerns, emergency controls and shutoffs, radios, and emergency exits. The tail rotor system at the rear of the aircraft is the most hazardous area. The aircraft should never be approached from the rear, and others should be observed to be sure that they are aware of this. Never walk behind an aircraft. The tail rotor is virtually invisible when turning. Fire is always a hazard around the aircraft due to the presence of fuel and oxygen. There's a fire extinguisher to the right of the pilot's seat and is only meant for small fires. The O2 shutoff is located to the right rear of the pilot's seat as well. This slide provides a better view of the oxygen shutoff to the right rear of the pilot's seat. The black pull activates the oxygen, and it is a common cause of O2 loss in flight if someone's foot migrates to this control. You should never smoke around an aircraft. There are no exceptions. Please monitor others for this as well. Familiarize yourself with the electrical shutoff on the aircraft you are operating in. Familiarize yourself with the fuel shutoff as well. Different aircraft have different levers for these functions. This aircraft has a yellow handle for the throttle, a small red handle for the fuel shutoff, and a large red handle for the rotor brake. Up is off. Note that some of these controls may be on the ceiling. It is essential to know how to get out of an aircraft in an emergency. Be aware that all windows in the aircraft, with the exception of the windshield, will pop out if kicked or pushed with force. This makes an emergency exit. Thank you. This concludes this training. Now please proceed to testing.